Hi guys! This week I'm doing the mid-year book freakout tag, which people keep on posting these and being like, oh, I'm late, and it's like, it's July, it's the middle of the year, this is fine. July, it's the middle of the year. If we were in September, sure. I guess I will just get right into it. The first question for the tag is, what is the best book you've read so far in 2020? And I always sort of find it hard to be like, oh, the absolute best, blah, 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 blah. But I think that my choice this time is going to be Thick. Cool. Basically, it's a essay collection from Tressie McMillan Cottom. Why did I have a hard time saying that? And it's sort of about her experiences, but also mixing in a lot of her expertise as a sociologist. So it's sort of like my favorite sort of high-low essay collection where she's talking about like her personal experience as a Black woman in academia and in American society in general, and talking a lot about like pop culture and stuff like that, but everything is immaculately sourced, which is, again, I'm here for it. I just need more essay collections in my life. I love them so much. The second prompt is, what is the best sequel you've read in 2020? And I don't really have a good answer to this one because I don't love sequels in general. I did go through my books and I've read two. The first sequel was Clockwork Prince, which is the Cassandra Clare whatever. I have to say that this is sort of like the first series that I can say Booktube made me read it, but I'm quite disappointed. The other sequel that I read was Blue Lily, Blue Lily, Lily Blue, which is part of the Raven cycle, and I did enjoy that one a lot more. The way that the author approaches like magic in her world is really interesting. I really like when not everything is like explained to each nitty-gritty, like logical. So yeah, it's just like a mood. Like I like it when it's like a little bit fantastical in like an unknown way, and that's definitely the case with the Raven cycle. It's like very dreamlike magic. Yeah, I think I need to read more books in like the Fae world. I don't know if that's a thing. The third prompt is, what is a new release you haven't read yet but want to? And my answer, I can't read my answer. Oh, sorry. My answer is Why Fish Don't Exist. I think it's sort of like narrative nonfiction, going through the life of a scientist who... I should have looked all this shit up before starting. Okay, I wish I hadn't just read that, because I feel like there was sort of a spoiler in like the book blurb. I'll start here. I really want to read this book because I heard Lulu Miller talk on the Longform podcast, which I highly recommend. If you're interested in nonfiction or like narrative nonfiction, there are always lots of really interesting authors on there promoting their newest books. She talked a lot about how researching this guy got her super obsessed with him, and then also like how it reflected on her own like experiences of like mental health. So I think I always just really like a book that's like sciencey but also intersects with the personal, and I am really excited to do that. I haven't been reading as much nonfiction as I normally do over the last couple months, I think because I've been in need of more escapist fiction, you know what I mean? But as things proceed, I feel like I just want to get more into it again because it is my favorite genre. What is your most anticipated release of 2020? And I think I'm gonna do a big video on like fall releases that I'm really excited about. I mean, it's even though things are crazy right now in publishing, it's a big year because all of the political books that have been pegged to the election cycle are coming out in the fall, and like fall is also a great time for nonfiction. So overall, very excited about all that. I did pick sort of randomly two, one of which is Cast. Cast is written by Isabel Wilkerson, who wrote The Light of Other Suns, which I have not gotten to yet, and I really want to. But I'm also like very excited for her new book because I feel like people don't actually like really talk about class in a productive way in the US. You know what I mean? So maybe you don't know what I mean. I've read interviews with her. She's amazing. I just like want to know what she thinks about everything. So there you go. What was your biggest disappointment in 2020? And I have to say that this is another one that's sort of hard for me to talk about just because like I feel like I frequently try to not come into books with too many expectations because I am very prone to disappointment. So I like try to go in completely neutral, and then you know you can't be disappointed if you didn't expect great things from the book. That sounds so negative, but you know, it just works for me. But I do have to say that just from like the marketing and the blurb, I was a bit disappointed by Magic for Liars. Basically, it was marketed as like a mystery in like a magic school setting. For both a mystery and a magic school fantasy book, like those are two very specific moods, and I feel like it didn't really hit either of them. And I never really got into the main protagonist's motivations. Like they were described, but I didn't feel them. But I do sort of feel like in a lot of cases when you read a book that doesn't land for you, it's a lot more about where you are than where the book is. So it's not like I would recommend you avoid this book. It just didn't work for me. The sixth prompt is, what was your biggest surprise in 2020? And I feel like I have a very clear answer for this one, and that is In the Woods. Pew, 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 pew. No. Basically, I just sort of picked this up at the beginning of quarantine because I just like needed something like really compelling to like get myself out of my own life. I had like read the first 30 pages of this previously like in the bookstore and been like, oh yeah, whatever. But when I sat down and read this, I read this whole thing like practically in one sit. I mean, not really, but I like stayed up till 3 a.m. reading it. I like shucked off all of my other responsibilities. So I very much enjoyed this book, and I was not expecting to have like that strong of a reaction to it. The central mystery was good, but it was like the characters' development and storyline that I was like, blah, about. So that's all. That's all I have to say about this. Prompt number 7 is, who is your new favorite author? Number 8 is, who is your new fictional crush? And I will say no. Like, if I had to pick somebody, it would probably be Cass from In the Woods. This prompt makes no sense to me. Scratch it from the books. New favorite character would probably be Cass. No. We Ride Upon Sticks. I feel like the entire ensemble in this book is probably my favorite character. They just like fit so well together. Basically, it's about a field hockey team that maybe dabbles in some dark magic to start winning their high school field hockey league. But it is sort of an ensemble book. You jump into different people's perspectives, although the whole thing is told in we. I don't know, I guess that's a W. Which is like sort of interesting. It takes like a couple chapters to get into, but I really liked basically every character in this. They're like so flawed, but they're just like figuring out how to be themselves. It was so good. But I guess if I had to pick a character specifically from this book, it would be Lil Smitty. Lil Smitty or AJ. Cool. Number 10 is a book that made me cry. And I don't think I've cried from a book this year. I will say that I feel like the book that I remember giving me like the most emotional like was Writers and Lovers. Basically, it's a book about a 30-year-old woman, I think she's about 30, who has just lost her mother, and she is a writer and working at a restaurant. And at the beginning of the book, her life is just sort of like a little bit, not in shambles, but she's like sort of an emotional mess, and like things don't look good for her, but like I don't know if this is a spoiler, but things get better, you know? And I feel like I just, again, read this at a time when it was like, okay, bad things can happen, and then after that, good things can still happen. And that just was like very comforting. I just really felt for her. Now that I'm approaching 30, I'm just like much more interested in reading books with 30-year-old protagonists who are a mess rather than like a teen protagonist that is a mess. Everybody likes to see themselves in literature, right? Number 11 is name a book that made you happy. And I would also do writers and lovers for this because, again, no spoilers, but things turn out okay. What is the most beautiful book that you've bought this year? I normally don't really go in for books as being like beautiful objects. Like I'm not gonna like buy collector's editions of books and stuff like that. If they're beautiful, I normally don't even want to read them because I'm like, but you're so pretty. Anyways, all that being said, I did get a great paperback, Black Leopard Red Wolf by Marlon James. This book I've been waiting to come out in paperback because I really don't like reading books out of hardback, especially fat books like this guy, but I am very excited about this. I feel like I've been trying to get more into adult fantasy, and especially fantasy that doesn't focus on sort of like a medieval Western canon vibe of fantasy. Like no more Tolkien knockoffs. Like I'm done with that. So I'm excited about this. I also like have been a little bit primed to try some like light horror or books with light horror elements, which I think is in this book. I guess I'm supposed to be talking about the cover. Look at that. I like covers that are a little bit more abstract, but colors beautiful, text beautiful. I don't know what to tell you. 2 more to go. The 13th prompt is, what book do you still need to read in 2020? And I hate the word need because needing to do things makes me sort of not want to do them, but I do have a stack of fat books. The one 2020 goal I had at the beginning of the year was to read more fat books, and by more, I meant 6, and by fat, I meant 500 plus pages. So far in 2020, I've read 1 fat book, and I just have like a stack of them gathering dust. Here we go. These are some of the ones that I bought at the beginning of the year, being like, I'll read them definitely, immediately. But as I mentioned before, I really want to read The Warmth of the Other Suns. So this might be the answer to the prompt. Blood in the Water is also one that I'm really interested in. It's about the Attica prison uprising, which I feel like it's very pertinent right now to where we are politically, and event in U.S. history that I would really like to understand better, / is never brought up in history classes, but like a huge important thing in terms of like domestic prison reform and stuff like that. Anyways, this is like the most awkward way to hold books. Middlemarch is a classic that I've been meaning to read for a long time. This is also like quite a beautiful copy. And then Tom's River is an old Pulitzer Prize winner. I think it's about a court battle. Like some town had like a very high rate of cancer because of pollution in their local river from a chemical company. This could all be wrong, but this is what I think it's about. So I think this journalist just went in and like talked to all the people and like followed the court case around that like class action lawsuit, and I'm really interested in that stuff. So these guys, okay, sorry. So the 14th prompt is, who is your favorite book community member? And I have to say that I am very new to BookTube. Like, I haven't been watching BookTube for years and years and years, like a lot of people. It's just something that has like really brought me comfort in the last couple months. So the booktuber that got me into it is Reagan at Peruse Project. I like started watching her vlogs partially because like in early quarantine I was missing New York, and I feel like her weekend vlogs are very like, oh, and then we went and got a bagel, New York. And then I've also been really enjoying Olive's channel and Justin's channel. He's Ghost Reader, I think. I feel like there's not a ton of nonfiction readers on Booktube, so finding content related to that is like really fun. And also I feel like watching their channels, like it just sort of like opens your eyes to how many books there are that you could be reading at any point in time. Like TBR is a mess, and I'm here for it, but I'm also not here for it. So anyways, that was my mid-year freak out. Thanks you all for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!